Welcome to Bring Out Your Badass Self, a movement to break your negative thoughts and habits and instead focus on building each other up and encouraging fearless authenticity.
Each week, we will get vulnerable and share experiences alongside our guests and audience. Come rediscover your inner badass self.
Good morning, BOYBAS. As you join us, please say hello. Let us know you've joined. Good morning to my beautiful co-host, Sarah Ganella.
Oh, good morning, Cate.
Good
Thank you for
morning.
that.
Yes.
Yeah. And as
Happy
a reminder,
Friday.
yes, happy Friday. And as a reminder for those that are joining us, especially those on Facebook, if you can make sure to go to streamyard.com/Facebook and just give us permission from StreamYard to see your lovely name. Otherwise, it just says Facebook user. Hey, good morning, Renee. There's Renee.
Good morning.
Has joined us this morning. Stephanie has joined us.
Good morning, guys.
Yeah. So, Cate, do you know what today is?
It's Friday. It's
Uh-huh.
almost April.
That's right.
It's the end of the quarter.
It is. It is the end of the quarter. Did you hit your sales goals?
I murdered my sales goals, Sarah.
Yes, you did. Awesome. Hey, Tammy has joined us. Hello, good morning, Tammy.
Good morning.
Oh my gosh, Kelly. Kelly has joined us. Hey, Kelly, good morning.
Good morning.
That's awesome. And so one of the questions, what about our audience? I wonder if they hit their sales goals, right, Cate?
Yes. Any news you want to share? A lot of you are probably in sales and marketing because Sarah and I are in sales and marketing. So would be interested to know if you hit your sales goals or, any metrics that you like to keep. How did quarter one go for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'd love to give you a shout out.
Yes. And so I'm also going to pull up Renee. She said she's loving our shirts.
Yes. Thank you.
So I would like
to.
Yes. So it says, bring out your badass self. It has our logo on it. And I wanted to thank Amanda McLean for doing our shirts. And Amanda really should start a t-shirt business, Cate.
Yes.
She does it for her daughter and all kinds of different types of things. But one thing she did do that she's also amazing at is also cooking. And she has now started a website. And we could actually add that link in here at the end after we're done if you guys are interested. Anybody that has seen my page or Amanda's page, a lot of times we cook together. And so Amanda's just an amazing cook, and she's now doing recipes. She's posting them out there and showing the food that she cooks. So that's also a talent of hers.
Yes, it's called Proficient Provisions. And Amanda's just a badass person. She's just amazing. So let's support her. And thank you so much for the shirts.
Yes, absolutely. I also wanted to call out, I don't know if you guys can see my necklace. And so Cate sent me this necklace and it says badass, right?
Yes, in Morse code.
In Morse code. Isn't that so cool? And so we have our dual badass necklaces this morning.
Yes. I love a uniform. It takes the choice out of having to get dressed in the morning. I'm a simple person when it comes to physical stuff. I don't want to do my hair, and I don't really want to pick out what I wear.
Yep.
I want to just know that I look decent, and I'm comfortable. I want to be comfortable. So,
and these shirts are pretty comfortable.
These are so comfy.
Yes, they are. Well, Cate, I'm going to call out. Stephanie said, way to go, Cate, on killing your goals.
Yes, thank you.
And then Renee said, aw, she loves that.
And
then Joel has joined us this morning. Good morning, Joel. So that's awesome.
Good morning. Part of our unstoppable team.
I know, exactly. So it's a lot of people that we work with, have worked with. And so we're continuing to build a badass team internally on the Full Sail team that we have in the Deltec ecosystem. And so today we want to welcome you. It's our third episode of Bring Out Your Badass Self. And today's topic is building an unstoppable team. And today we're going to be discussing our experience with building an amazing work team and also the importance of those surrounding you outside of the office. And so, Cate, I want to play our song of inspiration today, but today I have to add a little bit more, I guess, insight into this particular development of this song. So Brock Lucas creates our music, and I don't think everyone understands the level of involvement that it takes to do and produce a song every week. And so this week, Brock and I had a lot going on. And so trying to work together with our schedules of the things we are also responsible for proved to have some challenges. So Brock ended up giving me the song, but the vocals that I had given him ended up not quite working. So he ended up giving me a vocal with himself. So this morning I ended up working and ended up creating a video where I laid down new vocals. Now for me, I know Brock is a perfectionist and he will probably cringe at this because I don't have the technology and the capabilities that he has.
Right.
So I just think that, but one of the things that I think that this is a story of a team working together. And sometimes it's not always a perfect ending. It's not what you imagined it to be, but it just shows that just working together, you can still create something that I am still proud of. And so I hope that he is still proud of it as well.
Yes, without further ado, let's show the video.
All right, here we go.
I'm unstoppable. I'm a Porsche with no brakes. I'm invincible. Yeah, I win every single race. I'm so powerful. I don't need batteries to play. I'm so confident. Yeah, I'm unstoppable today. Unstoppable today.
There you go.
I love it. Unstoppable.
Oh my gosh. So I have to call out a couple of other people that have joined us. This is my mother. She said go team. And so she's the person that has helped me to become who I am today and that unstoppable force. And so I just wanted to call her out. And then I have a good friend joining me, Carmen, back from high school. We were unstoppable and maybe doing some things we shouldn't be doing. So
that's how you learn.
That's right. Exactly. So Renee, she said, love, love, love. So thank you so much. I'm still waiting to go do karaoke with Renee, by the way.
You have to show Stephanie's
yes.
comment as well.
All right.
That is correct. Led by our fearless leader.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just, for me, I think one of the things, as we start to get into this particular topic, what is a team?
Mm-hmm.
It is really the first question. A lot of times people think, well, if you put a bunch of people together, it's a team. Like think about a ball team and things like that. And for me, that's really not a team. You really have to create a team. You got to think about the different positions, like in sports and who it is that is the right fit. It has to be purposeful.
Yeah, I 100% agree. A group, a bunch of people together is a group. Yep. If there isn't a common purpose, if there isn't alignment, then there isn't a team.
Yeah. And I actually have a story to tell. It's actually a colleague. and I didn't get his permission, so I'm debating on whether to say his name or not. I normally
Well,
get permission. Oh, you know what? He shared it
it's
actually on.
public. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's right. We did I forgot. We actually did something on Full Sail that was on work culture, and it was what attracts and keeps great employees. And so we actually talked about this. And so Tim Burns within our company, one of the things that he ended up sharing is that he always learned from his parents that you go to a company, you work at a company for your entire life, and you retire from that company.
Right.
So that was sort of his mentality when he went into the workforce. And then what he found was companies that sort of were really in it for themselves. So it made him change his perspective and was like, okay, well, if these companies are going to be for themselves, then I need to start looking out for number one.
Right.
So when he ended up coming on board with us, he ended up telling us that it was really refreshing for him to have leaders that really cared for him. And it finally got him back to that beginning stage of where he wanted to be. And I think that it's super important. It sort of tells a story about culture and how you have to find a team has to have the right culture. You have to have the right fit. Like, does it fit you? And I think when people are seeking out teams, so many times they're worried about, am I going to get enough money? And all those things are important. But more important are the people that you work with and how you add value and how those people are going to help you grow as a person.
Yes. Yes. Because without a doubt, you spend a ton of time with these people, with your team members. And if you're not a good fit, if you're being forced to do something that doesn't work for you, or
Mhm.
if you are put in a position that that doesn't feel right, it's not going to be either as successful or as fun.
Mhm.
you know um, a lot of our industry is focused on the AEC industry, architects, engineers, and construction. And so I use a lot of analogies when I'm talking to people, and a lot of times I use it around building a structure, because that's all relevant to us in this industry. So you think about, when you're building a structure, obviously you want to have a solid foundation, and in a team, the foundation is like, what are the goals, what are our purpose, why are we here together, and then each of you kind of play a part in the structure, right? And so you think about a steel bar that's across, and it's a main support. We
Mm.
wouldn't ask that steel bar to be something else. We wouldn't say, now you need to bend, because no, it's a steel bar. So that's kind of what we're talking about today is being a part of the team, being there for a purpose, a common goal, but also being yourself and playing the role that you were meant to play.
Yeah, I love that. And I have another colleague, Wes, that always says, you can't put a square peg in a round hole. And I agree with that particular analogy, but I also try to look at, okay, well, if you're a square peg, where else could you potentially fit? I think so many times when we have in our mind how this team should be built, sometimes we overlook some of the capabilities or some of the strengths that people have and how it is that they could fit in another way. And so when you're building a particular team, you also have to be flexible as well to understand that that steel bar does what it does, but where does it fit in
Mm-hmm.
in this? And so if you aren't able to bend, okay, well, what type of position might you fit that fits whatever it is that you are,
Yeah.
as well. And so we do have a Facebook user. Please go to streamyard.com/Facebook. Give us permission to see your name. They're saying that they are always a square peg. I'm not sure who this is, but that person is a square peg.
I wonder if it's Casey.
I don't know. So, but he had already given permission previously
Right.
because I saw his name. So,
But I want to circle back on something you said, Sarah, because I
yeah.
think it's unique, especially for all of our managers or our leaders that are with us today. Um, Sarah has done something unique in times when there's a person that she manages, or a person within the company that isn't in the right position. And rather than just kind of parting ways, Sarah has been really good at figuring out where else could we leverage this person, because there's still value in everything that they've learned. They may not be in a role that is their fit, but they've still learned about the company. They still have, a ton of dedication probably. And, where else can we apply that? And so that is something to think about from a leadership perspective, to all you folks out there that may be managing people.
Yeah, I think that it's so important. So many times people just want to, quickly fire someone. Well, they don't fit in that position. Let's fire them. And I'm like, okay, but this person has grown, knows our company, has a lot of capabilities. Let's look at their strengths first. Like, what is it that they're really good at? And is there a way that we could shift to bring out the strengths in other people as well, where we can concentrate them on their strengths and then put this person in on their strengths? So for me, strengths and weaknesses, I think this is one of the most important things when you're looking at a team, is you got to understand strengths and weaknesses. Now, I did reach out to Joel, who has joined us today. And one of the things that I talked to him about is about strengths and weaknesses. And I think as a leader, it's important to know your weaknesses. So there are certain things that I know that I am not as good at. So whenever I'm looking to build a team, I also want to find people that are different than me. And a lot of times we are seeking out people that are exactly like us. And I think the strength in a team is the diversity that everyone makes. Now, does that cause for further need for communication and, struggling sometimes in how it is you communicate with each other? Yes.
Yeah.
But those people provide value. And I think that's one of the things that people have always said about the 4 leaders of our company is we're all different. We all bring different strengths and weaknesses to the table. But as a leader, you also have to acknowledge your weaknesses and how it is that you're going to bring someone on. So for me, whenever I chose Joel to come on board, one of the things that my strength is I am very quick when it comes to needing answers. So people tend to rely upon me for that. But with that, that's also sometimes a weakness. Sometimes I also will be so quick in my response that maybe I don't think through everything.
Right.
Joel is really good at thinking through things in a methodical way. And so when Cate and I get with him, a lot of times he's like, I need a little more time. And we're like, yep, we acknowledge that about him. And the other thing I want to point out is Cate, for example, I had someone that the client gave us a response back. And I was very quick. I was just like, about business. I was pointing out, yep, whatever it was about the business, but the person had shared something personal. And Cate followed up afterwards and ended up mentioning the personal aspect of what she said. And I was feeling so bad. I was like, oh my God, like I missed that. I was like, thank you so much for catching that and for following up and doing that. And so that is really where a team sees that this person is really strong in this area. And I didn't take it offensively that she caught something, and did that. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what a good team does, is they seek to fill in the gaps, right? So because they all have the same goal, where are our gaps? Where else can we create value and really, have as well-rounded an approach as possible, right?
Yeah.
So, we rely on that all the time. You mentioned Joel. Joel is our, he's so deliberate and he's so thoughtful and, and so we leverage that in so many different ways, right? When we put together a written piece, we ask Joel to look it over because he's very deliberate, and when we need a strong strategy, Sarah and I may be able to come up with some ideas really fast, but then we let it kind of sit and marinate with Joel for a little bit so that, there's some more deliberation there and some more strategy. And he's amazing at that.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is that I'm not always good at follow up as well. So that's why I have always tag teamed with someone else. Like they always bring me in to help with the strategy of things and also figuring out how are we going to solve this problem? Like that's
Mhm.
my strength. And sometimes my strength isn't follow up. Cate and Joel are amazing at follow up. And so they're always like, and even Amy Balasan used to do this with me. She'd be like, hey, have you followed up? And I'm like, nope, doing it right now. So I will like follow up with that person. But I'm dealing with so many different things that I have to have someone to help me with the follow up and all the things that I have going on. So I know because I'm jumping around, that's a weakness because of what my job is. And so you have to find those individuals that help you to overall build that team.
Definitely. And I'll share one more story
Yeah.
because to me, I just want to be honest, this feels like kind of common sense, but it really, in reality, it's really hard to execute.
Mhm.
It's really hard to think strategically about it because you're drawn to people that are either completely similar to you or completely opposite.
Mhm.
And so there's sometimes it's the gray area that you really need to be focused on, but you're not like instinctively doing that. So
Mhm.
the example I want to give is my dad and I ran a business for like 15 years together, and I was the delivery side. We were essentially selling a service that I was very good at. And so when we started the business and we were, and I had gotten to capacity myself and we were growing, my inclination was to go find more people like me. That's what I needed. I needed people like me. And it took me a couple of years to realize that, first of all, I didn't want to manage a bunch of me's. Second of all, that, there wasn't enough contrast and we weren't able to provide nuances to our clients because I needed some people on the team that were more nurturing, or I needed some people on the team that could be a little more technical, or that could really kind of plow through a task list. So we ended up kind of deviating and figuring out those nuances as we went.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I think that's super important. And I think about all of the different types of individuals that we have even within our company. And one of the things that we always do is, so for example, if we need someone to really proof something, we're sending it to Jen Renfro.
mhm.
She is the person that is helping us with those types of things. And then I think as you start to look at particular team members, there are core things that someone needs to have. So, for example, on our account management team, you got to be good at follow up. Like, if you're not good at follow up, then you might not necessarily be, a good fit for that type of position. So, you have
Right.
to understand like the core things that that person has to have. But I think the thing to keep in mind is that as a leader or as someone that is working with someone else, we need to understand that everyone's going to have their approach to things. I think this has been the biggest challenge with sometimes with teams is that if it's not done how we expect it to be done, therefore it may not be right. And it's an example of like the song. Brock may come back and go, well, that's not how I would have done it. But I was like, that's how I wanted to do it.
Right.
So sometimes things are not, and it doesn't mean that it's wrong, because a lot of times I think this is one of the key things. I always look at, okay, what is the end result? Are we getting the end results? It doesn't matter how someone gets to point A to B, but is
Mhm.
B what you guys were setting out to accomplish?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we see this all across industry right now as more and more people are working remote versus working in offices. You know, um, there has to be, in order to make that successful, there has to be some trust there,
Yeah.
which leads us down to, I think, Sarah, do you want to share about how you talk to your kids about what an unstoppable team was? Which
Yeah.
I forgot to do. So Shame on me. Jenna's going to watch this and she's going to be like, you have this bevy of resources at your fingertips. But of course, I forgot to ask them.
Oh, no. Well, real quick, I'm going to pull up a comment from Amanda Roussel. She said that time that she sent her resume to Full Sail for a position that she had no experience for, yet Sarah gave it attention and said, you wouldn't be qualified for this, but how about this idea?
Yeah.
And so Amanda, I saw a lot of potential in her, and we were looking for someone on the marketing side, but she wanted to go into the CRM side. So I was like, all right, so let's do this. You have some experience in this, but let's build you up and let's get you more familiar from a marketing perspective, because she had marketing experience. And then let's build a plan to then get you over to the CRM side. And so I think it's a great story. And as we get into goals, I think it'll also very much go into that side as well. So as Cate was saying, I asked my kids, I said, okay, I'm going to be doing our show. Next week's going to be on unstoppable teams. And both of them have been in sports. And Gavin, especially, he is a leader when it comes to sports. So I was like, okay, so what makes an unstoppable team to you? And they said, first and foremost, trust. And I just loved that was the first thing that they said, that they understood that you have to trust the people you're working with.
Yes. Yeah. It's such a huge component, and it's hard because you're not, I don't know, but I mean, I feel like there's more of the mentality out there that you are, that you have to work hard, climb a ladder, do what you need to do for yourself, to get to where you need to be. That's kind of, I would say, promoted or talked up a lot, but there isn't a lot of focus out there on, like, find a team that you can trust, find an organization that feels right and that feels like they trust you to do the work, and that you can trust them to have your back.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I think it also brings up our culture is we are remote. And until 2020, it was still a foreign concept to people to be remote. And
especially in our industry, in AEC industry, it's very, especially in our industry. I mean, it's a very physical industry.
Yeah. And I've been working remote for 15 years, but our company has a 27-year history of working remote, which is just unheard of. And so working remote requires even more trust, because you can't just go down the hall and go, hey, Cate, what you working on?
Right.
So
yeah.
And the thing that I always tell people when we hire them is, I had Kim, for example, that asked me, she was like, so what are the hours? And she was like, is it 9 to 5? And I was like, well, what hours do you need to do your job? And she was like, what do you, what do you mean? I can make my own hours? And I'm like, she's like, you just want me to be an adult? And I'm like, yeah, that's the expectation. And so if you don't have that trust that someone is doing the job, then I'm sorry, you're then not going to be working here. And so you have to have that trust in your colleagues that they're going to help you. And so one of the other things they said is you have to be reliable.
Yes.
They have to have your back. I think that's huge. I cannot tell you how many times we have had someone that has gone out. We have a colleague here that went on jury duty today. Well, we had to, okay, well, what are we doing? How are we handling that? All right, team, here we go. We've had people deal with medical issues. It's like, okay, well, let's step up to the plate. Let's help cover. Hey, we had a disaster happen on a project. Everybody's jumping in. That is an unstoppable team. People that are going to have your back and be there for you. And then the fourth thing they said was selflessness. And I really loved that one.
Yeah, that's because you have to see the team's goal as your own goal, and really incorporate, it into the way you're operating and the way that you are seeing the world,
Yeah.
through the lens of that those goals, the team goals.
Yeah. And so Renee here said, lack of trust creates such a negative work environment. Been there, done that. Haven't we
Yes.
all? Woo!
I will say, when I was 26, I had a fantastic job. I was a partner at the firm. It was a startup, and I loved this job. Although I was a partner, I still had a boss. The majority partner was my boss, and unfortunately, he wasn't comfortable enough to not micromanage everyone around him. That was just his style, and I really struggled with it. I got to the point where he could trust me to get the work done, but it ended up being something that I had to walk away from at the end of the day, because it wasn't, even though I really liked the work was fantastic. The aspect of this negativity
Mm.
was kind of just too much.
Yeah.
And it was too much for a lot of people. But so sometimes you have to make that choice and that balance. Like, so even if it's a really good fit and that you're adding value in one aspect, but the team there isn't aligned, you don't have the same goals, that might make it not be a fit, and that's okay.
Yeah. And so, Kate, when we start to think about what has to be in place in order to have that trust and
Mhm.
reliability and having a core group that has your back and selflessness and things like that, ultimately for me, I think that it starts with leadership. You
Mhm.
really set the tone on what is expected and what isn't. What
Right.
you will allow, making sure also you're accountable and also providing transparency. I think that's probably one of the key things for me that is important, that I'm providing transparency on, even if we're dealing with challenges and things like that. So many times leaders keep all of that sort of hidden, and
Mhm.
then their team has no idea all this other stuff that's going on. But I think having that transparency is super important. And Stephanie said 100%. So I
Yep.
don't know if that was on trust or on
Transparency.
leadership, all of
But
those things.
yeah, I mean, but they're both super important. For me, I can't. I have a hard time trusting what I don't know.
Mm,
Who doesn't, right? You know. And so there's a difference between, like, just faith in something or someone,
yeah.
um, versus being able to see it. And I think in the business world, um, there has to be a level of accountability and transparency, and those things come together. So if we all know what each other's working on, we know
Mm,
what the strategies behind it, what the goals are, and we see the data to support it. um, that makes it a lot easier to feel accountable for your role, to
mhm.
know that other people are accountable for their roles, and to trust each other.
Yeah. And for me, one of the things that I have continued to hear internally is, as a leader, we also have to be willing to step in and help. And I think that's one of the things
Mhm.
that people have always been able to rely upon me for, is that I'm not just going to get onto you for not accomplishing things. I'm going to be like, okay, so, all right, well, what do we need to do? How can I help you?
Right.
And jumping in, being willing to jump in and actually do the work, the hard work sometimes, or things that maybe you don't even have time to do. But all right, well, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to help you. I can see you're overwhelmed. Let's figure this out. And we had this week. We have so many large deals going on right now in different clients that I could tell the different team members were getting overwhelmed. I was like,
Mhm.
all right, and I even got a little short, and I ended up apologizing. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm short. I just have a lot of stuff on my plate. And they're like, I understand. But I was trying to jump in and help this person, get a certain thing taken care of. And sometimes we might end up getting frustrated ourselves.
Mhm.
And we just have to sort of sit back and go, okay, what can I do? How can I deal with this in the moment? What is it the most important thing that we need to get accomplished? And we come together as a team. And so it
Mhm.
ended up being I think, a great presentation
Yeah.
that we ended up doing. Could it have been better? Sure. But the client wanted it early on instead of allowing us more time. And sometimes I think the other thing that people will also say is that they maybe didn't do it as well as they thought it should be, and I'm just like, well, we did the best we could in the moment that we had to do it.
Yes, yes, that is one of my favorite phrases is I did the best I could with the skills I had at the time, right? And because if you spend a lot of time looking back and regretting things, sure, you learn how you have thoughts, you process it. I mean, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. So you know what you may want to tweak or do differently next time. But if you spend a lot of time, feeling bad about what you did do, that's kind of wasted energy. Um,
Yeah.
so I wanted to just mention, the old adage, like your failure is my failure if we're on a team. There is a little bit of truth to that, but it's not about, removing the possibility of a failure. It's more about helping, and
Mm,
that's really what it's about, removing barriers for people that you manage, so that they can get the work that they need to get done. And
mhm.
there's that is taken into all sorts of different team dynamics. I know in the development world and the programming world, there's agile, and the scrum master,
Mhm.
maybe his job is his or her job is to remove obstacles to help the rest of the team get their jobs done.
Yeah. I wanna call out one example of Cate, recently, is that I asked 2 individuals to take the lead on something, and one of the individuals ended up saying, "I'm not sure that I can take this on." And Cate was like, "Okay, well, what can I take off your plate that would allow you to do this?" Because she saw that it was an important thing. She wanted this person to stretch. And she was like, "How can I take this off your plate?" And they were like, "Oh, well, I have this deadline." She's like, "All right, I got it. I'm
Mhm,
taking it." And I
mhm.
think it's a great example of a team member coming in and wanting that opportunity for someone else to grow and taking off something that they could have done.
Yes, yes, which reminds me of that theory or that philosophy that you were telling me about um, where you heard that one of the things that makes someone successful is finding these things out about your boss, right?
Yes. So I was listening to something and they said if you come into a job, one of the best ways that you can be successful right off the bat is to find out from your boss what they hate doing and then take that off and start to do that. And they were like, your boss will all of a sudden be like, wow, this is a great team member. They're helping me and taking off the thing that I hate the most. And that is ultimately how you start to build that trust as well. Because I would immediately be like, I love this person.
They're a hero.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Jennifer has a great comment as well. So communication is also vital to ensuring the team runs successfully. And sometimes
Yes.
that is easily overlooked, and also understanding how each person communicates well. Because sometimes people need things like, okay, let's bullet it out. Let's write down the instructions. Sometimes people can easily take in information just by you telling them. And sometimes people need it recorded. All right, well, let's record this. And
Hmm.
so you also have to understand each person's communication style and also how they learn the best too.
Right. Yep. And you have to tailor it and ask. I mean,
Hmm.
I have found that it's really helpful to ask in the moment, like, so as we're learning this, what do you think is the best way to make sure,
Hmm.
do you want to take notes? Do you want to lead and I'll kind of guide you?
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of ways that you can kind of tailor the way that you're communicating to make sure that it works for someone. And Jennifer is fantastic at this. She's fantastic at asking questions and really helping us make sure that everyone understands the common goal.
Yeah. One of the other things that you and I had talked about is also emotional awareness.
Yes,
And so
huge.
just understanding, and sometimes in work, our paths, past lives, or the things that have happened to us in the past, or things we're still struggling with, can trigger us. And so I think that one of the other things, and this goes into the weaknesses as well, but it's also understanding what might also trigger you, or the things that you are uncomfortable, understanding people's fears as
Mhm.
well, and understanding the things that they may struggle with, and taking a moment to really, okay, take yourself out of this. And so one of the things that I always try to do is, I'm like, okay, let me remove myself from this situation. Let me try to hear this information in a non, me philosophy, the things that I've gone
Mhm.
through. How can I disconnect or deep, compartmentalize the things that they're telling me,
Right.
as well. And I know, Kate, you have a lot of uh, things on this topic as well.
Yeah, so emotional awareness is huge. So I am kind of fortunate that I tend to not get um too I don't tend to get a lot of negative emotions around work. I usually um have I get like just lots of joyful emotions typically. Um, but but this applies to any type of relationship you have,
Mhm.
you know, out there. You're a team with your family. You're a team, in many different places. A lot of us have other groups that we're involved in, and you all have teams everywhere.
Mhm.
So, being aware of your emotions and where you are and how you are handling them is key. So, because if you become dysregulated, if you become unable to get to keep your goal in mind or your value in mind, you're kind of living in your emotion mind, for lack of a better term. When you're living in that space, it's really hard to see things clearly. So you have to be aware of where you are, and you have to not beat yourself up. Right. So you could be in one moment finding something really stressful, and you may have to express that to your team members. Like, I'm in this moment, I'm really overwhelmed, like I'll have to come back to you. Um, and you have to be okay with that. You have to not shame yourself for that, and you have to be aware of it and communicate it to the rest of your team members. It's very key.
Yeah. And I think it also, one of the other things you had mentioned is also like a power dynamic,
Hmm.
between individuals, and understanding how it is that each person communicates. I'm a very direct person, and sometimes I have found with certain individuals, I know that I might trigger them with the way that I'm very direct in how I speak. And it's not that I mean, I think I'm just communicating in a very specific way, but for certain individuals, I have to soften how it is that I communicate, because I know for that person, that's something they're still working on, to not necessarily get triggered by someone that's very direct. So I have to think
Hmm.
about how it is that I'm then going to communicate, and how it is. And I love the analogy that Tasha gives in doing like a sandwich approach. So whenever I'm talking to someone and I'm about to give them some type of constructive criticism, I have to really boast them up and make sure that I'm letting them know I think they're doing a great job
Hmm.
in things. Here's something I think maybe we could tweak, or something that we could work on. And
Right.
so you give them that constructive criticism, then you give them the good things again. And so some people just, like, give it to me straight, whatever, and they can move on. Other people, you have to really do that sandwich approach in how you communicate with them too.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's sometimes hard to see. You don't, this is something that we talked about. Um, is that most people, I mean, I would say hopefully more than 50% of your people that you surround yourself really do want to do the best that they can. And if there are things that they need to work on, they may not always know that, right? Because otherwise they would have been working on it already. Or, like, I mean, and you need sometimes an objective outside opinion to tell you, but most of the time, everybody has pretty good intentions. They are trying their best, and it feels good to hear feedback about both aspects, about the things that may come easy to them, about the things that may come hard to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it is ultimately, as a leader, one of the things we also have to do is empower others. So we have to understand, how can we help this person in what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And for me, one of the things that I always try to do is also what I call, we're going to talk about goal setting and things like that, but I also love stretch goals. And so here's what you feel confident that you can do. All right, how can we stretch you just a little bit more? And Joel is an example on this as well. Something that he thought that he could not do. So I asked him, hey, I want to see about starting to have you take on some demos and maybe do them opposite of Cate. For one, he got a lot of confidence in just seeing Cate come in and just do it. He was like, okay, well, if she can do it, maybe I can. But then he was still like, okay, I'm not sure. And so we broke it down. We were like, okay, timesheets and expense reports. And, so let's start there and then let's just build. And one of the things that I loved is by the end, he's amazing. He does an amazing job at it. And it was something that he would not have probably put on himself, but now that has continued to give him confidence to do even more.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's been really wonderful to see.
It has. Yeah. I think this goes in with Stephanie's comment. I feel like sometimes we've been playing a certain role, if you will, and for so long, we don't even see the possibilities of what we can become until we meet someone with vision and insight. Oh, I love that.
I love that, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes people, especially good leaders, see more in you than you see in yourself. And I think that is so key. And that's one of the things that I love about my job, is that I see things that in people before they even see it in themselves. And I love being able to build that. And so he says he really did surprise himself with both, your help and encouragement. So that's awesome.
Oh, it was so great to see. It's so fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't fun. It was, in all honesty, it wasn't fun for Joel at first. He was a little, taken aback and feeling overwhelmed. But once he got through it, it was really great to see.
Yeah. And so I think that also brings us into also talking about goal setting.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a leader and as you're empowering your team, you also have to have in mind, okay, how will we get there? How will we get from A to Z? And sometimes we have to first start with, okay, let's get to B and C, but you have in your mind the vision of what that end is going to look like. And for me, that's where I think that's my ability as a leader to be able to do that. But it's also being transparent, as we talked about, and getting other people to start to see your vision. And sometimes building a team isn't overnight. Like, it has taken years for us to get to where we are at. And so sometimes people expect it overnight, and you also have to be very patient, but slowly like ticking away. And then sometimes things happen. It's like, oh crap, now this goal or what it is we were planning on doing just fell apart. And so you just have to, and sometimes that ends up being the best thing. You're like, oh, now we actually have a better vision.
Yep.
Because we just found someone else. And I would say that this actually happened with Cate. We had an individual that left, and I was like, oh shit. And it was a lot of stress on me. But I had already been building up this relationship with Cate, and it ended up just being the perfect time. And with her coming in, it ended up being even better than the person that left. It's not that person wasn't they were great at the time, and then they wanted something else, but we ended up getting someone that ended up just taking us even further.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful how these things work together. And for me, it was the perfect timing as well. So it was like the perfect storm, but a good
Yeah.
storm.
Yeah. And so when we think about goals as well in establishing them for our team, I think also as a leader, you also have a responsibility. So many times, if you're going to build an amazing, unstoppable team, it's not just that person's goal. It is also yours as a leader. And one of the things that I had said this on one of our team meetings, and Gina was like, I've never heard anybody say this. And what I had said to her is that if you don't accomplish a goal, I look inward. So if I'm the person that is your manager, I look inward and say, okay, what did I not do to potentially help this person accomplish their goals? Did I not provide them the resources? Did I not provide them the tools? Did
Was
I
I
not?
not checking in enough?
Yeah.
Right.
So first we have to look inward as leaders that are helping our team. So it's sort of a coach helping their team. Well, what did you maybe not do to help your team accomplish what it is that you were doing? And then
Mhm.
what can we do to adjust that? So instead of going, well, you didn't accomplish this goal. All right, well, what do we need to work on? What do we need to tweak? And I think that this was one of the things whenever I was not a leader, whenever I was reporting to my previous person and I was overseeing marketing, I was like, hey, I'm just going to let you know, I'm going to make some mistakes. I'm going to have some things that aren't
Mhm.
successful. But
Right.
what I can guarantee is that I'm going to learn from those mistakes and I'm going to grow from those mistakes. And ultimately, that is what makes an amazing, unstoppable team, is learning from your mistakes and also growing from those mistakes.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So we do have a Facebook user that said critical feedback, not criticism.
Yes.
And so,
That is important, right?
mhm.
It feels different. You have to take advantage. You have to take into account the emotions that can come with the feedback that you might be giving someone.
Yeah.
So it's super important.
Yeah.
Let's talk. You also have to applaud your successes. I mean, that is huge. So, like
Mhm.
when you set these goals, when you achieve them, when you achieve the stretch goal, I mean, we had so much fun congratulating Joel when he, finished that first demo and had that success under his belt, right?
Yes.
We all reveled in the joy of that success because it was huge. We knew it, and then just hitting other goals, you have to you have to be happy together. It was a goal you came together as a team, you got it done. It's time to celebrate.
Yeah. Here recently, Evan within our group, Lindsay
Mhm.
was out and I was originally going to cover, but I was like, okay, I see this as an opportunity. I'm actually going to talk to Evan. I'm going to have him lead this particular webinar. And so him and I met beforehand. We went over things and he felt comfortable enough to try it. And I said, look, I'm here. I'm your shadow. If something goes wrong, I'll jump in. But it was a great opportunity for him to take the lead as someone that was in marketing intern that is now a marketing assistant, in a great way to help him grow as an individual in this position. And then at the end, I made sure I posted, I was like, hey everyone, Evan just did his first demo. And so it's applauding that, being willing to take a risk and to try something new. Those, you really have to make sure that you're applauding and celebrating even just the small, could be something that people consider small, but it was something new, it was something fresh that he had
Mhm.
never done before. So
Mhm.
celebrating that success, so he now is like, okay, well, now I can do the
I got
next thing.
this. Right. I can do this, no problem.
Yeah.
We have to, as team members and as individual contributors to the team, regardless, this is a huge thing for me. I'm very fortunate, I feel, um, to have figured out what I love to do, but don't discount that aspect. So in
Mhm.
my opinion, even if you are working at, in a non-traditional setting, or you are working on something, maybe even volunteering, but you need to love what you do.
Mm-hmm.
That is key. And if you don't love what you do, please find something else.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, you spend a heck of a lot of time doing your work, or whatever your life's passion is. If you don't truly love it, what's the point? Why put so much energy into it? It has to feed you. It has to fuel you. It has
Mm-hmm.
to, I love my job so much that it's almost my hobby. I will say that it is my hobby, so like when I have spare time, it's what I'm thinking about. So I go ahead and keep doing it because I love what I do. And it makes me happy, and I'm grateful. And that doesn't mean that I don't try to balance my life. So I'm not, that I don't have an appropriate work-life balance or any of those things. But I feel good when I am adding value and I am doing the work that I do. And that fuels me for my the other areas of my life.
Yeah.
The love and the energy that I get from doing what I do is my fuel.
Yeah. And think about the people that surround you. And so,
Yes.
not only in your work environment, so the energy and how people are around you, that ultimately impacts you day in, day out. And
Mhm.
so, that also is important to make sure the people that are in your personal life are also fueling you. So, think about your team outside of your work as well. So, your friends, do your friends support what it is that who you are? Do your friends support what it is that you're doing?
Mhm.
So we've talked about work, but this really, all of these things apply to the people that you surround yourself with, as well as the person that maybe you choose as your partner in
Right.
life. And so thinking about those things, for me, i I went from getting married very early and having someone that I put energy into, and then realizing this person and I ended up divorcing. They decided that they didn't want to be with me. And at that time, I was like, here I am putting all of my energy into this person. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to focus
Right.
on what it is I want. And so when my next marriage ended up coming around, I was in a different place. So I had a different energy about me. And so I was able to dedicate energy, positive energy to this person because I was in a different state
Mhm.
in my life. And so and I also had to really focus on, I'm about to take on an endeavor to be a business owner. Are you with me? Because a
Right.
partner, if you're not with me, if you're not going to help support, because this is going to change our lives, this is going to require more hours. This is sort of a change in a lot of times how people tend to see roles as far as female and male and things like that. So my husband tends to be the person that takes care of everything in the household. And it takes a strong individual to take on that particular role as a male. In even in today's society, it's becoming less and less, but you have to have individuals that are super strong, that are also around you, that you're surrounded with, and your friends. And we've even had evaluating certain friends and deciding, hey, maybe this isn't the right energy we want
Mhm.
as well.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You have to, for um, those out there that feel as though they haven't quite found their right people, or focus on building a team with with your person, right?
Hmm.
With the person you're going to invest your time in, your family as your team. Focus on the energy and the love that you have there, and what your common goals are, what your values are. It's just like a work team, except you get to have even more fun.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think, Kate, next episode, or a future episode, it's not the next one, but one coming up is going to be about focusing inward. And we're going to focus more about why that's important, as well. And I know life purpose and things like that are super important to you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, values, you have to have a strong goal in mind in your work life and your family life. It's
Hmm.
and you have to be living your purpose. You have to be passionate about what you do, inside and outside of your work life.
Yeah. And my mom just said,
Oh,
I have a
I see
beautiful family. She said, keep the cook. My husband's an amazing cook.
that. Yes.
And so luckily he also enjoys that. So that's his strength.
Right.
That is not my strength. Although he has had me grow and to become more of a sous chef for him, except for a knife. Like he's like, put down the knife.
Yes. Yes.
It's so well, Cate, I have really enjoyed today's conversation. We could talk about building an unstoppable team. Hopefully, today's information helped people to know how they can build an unstoppable team in their own life, not only in their work life, but also in their personal life. And I know you and I could continue on forever, but it does look like we are at the top of our time.
Yes. Yeah. So I would invite you all to go have yourself a kick-ass weekend. As always, um, find your put some extra thought into the teams that you are on and the teams that you want, and give yourself a little permission to think about that, and to live in the energy of what it could be like if you had a different team, or a new team, or if you created a different team that really helps you thrive. So do that this weekend. Have yourself a kick-ass weekend and a badass week.
Yes, and we want to, those that are going to put this on replay that weren't with us live, make sure that you also take time to provide us feedback on things that you would also like to see in the future as well. We also put in both the Facebook and the LinkedIn page a poll. I think it's ending today. I'm not sure, but we wanted to hear from you on other topics that we really should cover. So be sure to provide us that. And
Yeah.
and I just wanted to thank everybody. And so Jen said, and to be grateful for your unstoppable team.
Yes,
Gratefulness is going to be a topic all in itself, but I
it
agree.
is. Yeah, and don't feel shy about providing us feedback. I mean, Sarah and I love feedback. It's a core part of my job. It's a core part of my life. I want to know how this is coming off, because I myself don't have much of a filter. So it is good for me to get feedback, and it's good for me to feel like, to know what resonates with folks. So feel free to say, oh, I really enjoy the personal stories you guys had, or stop talking so much about your own life, or whatever. Just tell us. We want to know.
Yep. I agree. And Cate, thank you so much. I just want to thank you because you have really added so much to my life. Not only in my personal life, Cate and I have become more close friends outside of work as well. And I think you tend to find that as you start to have individuals in your life, even from a work perspective. And so I am just so happy that you have come into my life. And for me, you make me an unstoppable leader as well.
Thank you. I feel so grateful for you and our team. And that's the way it works, right? I'm a huge believer in nepotism in some ways, or and just you don't have to separate these relationships. You have to have boundaries, right? And we're going to have a whole nother topic around boundaries, but you can actually love the people you work with. I genuinely love the people I work with. I care about them. And I want to see them succeed, and I want them to care about me, and that's so it's okay to have this friendship. It's okay to have a boss that you also can support sometimes. It's a beautiful thing. So I am thrilled and always super appreciative of our friendship and our work
Yeah.
relationship, Sarah.
Absolutely. And I'm posting Renee's last comment. Great topic today. Full Sail Partners team is the best, and she's fortunate to be a part of the extended team. Renee,
Yes.
we just consider her a part of our team. She said, "Keep it going and looking forward to Fridays at 9:30." That's awesome.
Aw, thanks, Renee.
Yeah. And
Mm,
so, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yes.
And I hope everyone has an amazing weekend and has a kick-ass Monday as it comes up next week. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes. Thanks, guys. Lovely to see all your faces. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.